there's a dominant narrative about business that it's inherently evil, greedy, and destructive, which is the opposite of capitalism, which is actually about creating good in the world, about giving away, finding win-win-win opportunities between people.
Welcome to the Academy on Capitalism and Limited Governments YouTube channel. Today we have with us a great guest, Alexander McCobin, CEO of Liberty Ventures. And we're going to talk with him today about capitalism, purpose, and principles. Great to have you.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Bill.
Excellent. So one of the first things, because I'm from the Academy on Capitalism here. This word capitalism can get a bad rap. So can you help us out? Like, what are some of the misconceptions of capitalism you've encountered? And how do you view capitalism as a positive force in the world?
So this is a really important question because I think most people have a fundamental misunderstanding of what capitalism really means. They may think that capitalism is a system of exploitation inherently. They may think capitalism is a system of a small group of individuals who actually own most of the goods and capital in society. Or they think that capitalism is a system that is set up to benefit the few at the expense of the many in some way. When really, at the end of the day, capitalism is an economic system premised on the free and voluntary trade of goods and services that entails the private ownership of property so that people are able to engage in that free exchange. The fundamental premise of capitalism is a respect for the individual agency of every person, their ability to set their own ends for what matters in their life, their ability and right to choose how they spend their time, who they create value for and with, and what they're going to do. That's the whole concept of capitalism.
I want to follow up on this because when we talk about capitalism and economics and everybody benefiting, people will say, yeah, that's great, but that's not how business works. And you've just talked about how people use their freedom and liberty in economic matters and in life matters to create value and do good. Has that been your experience? Like, do you have some examples and experience with Liberty Ventures that you can maybe share with us on how business does act?
Absolutely. So there's another misconception about capitalism that addresses this point head on, where underlying all those other misunderstandings is a sense that capitalism is a system where businesses and individuals only care about money and maximizing profit in the short term, that's the overriding purpose to economic activity. And while profit is a great thing, money is actually a powerful tool in order to direct our efforts and align our interests and lead to value creation. That's not the end-all be-all of capitalism. At the end of the day, capitalism is a framework for people to engage in economic interactions with each other that allows them to set other purposes on their own and allow for a diversity of purposes that people care about. But when we have so many different things that we want, where I may want to eat a really nice dinner, you may want to drive your car, and other people want to have a certain kind of house, and other people want to travel the world, we need to find a way to compare all of these very different goods and services against each other. And that's where money comes in as a medium of exchange to compare these seemingly incomparable goods and services with each other. And so in capitalism, when we're seeking to engage in trade, we're looking to create value for other people so we get value back. Money and profit is a means of evaluating how much value we're creating, but it's not the ultimate end. It's there to help serve us in helping fulfill other people's purposes and our own purposes and keep them aligned with each other. And that's the way most business leaders, I think, actually look at capitalism and business, that they're trying to do good in the world, help other people out, and recognize money and using that as a mechanism to evaluate their success and what they're doing as a way to help achieve that. But It's not the end. Those who are just looking to make a quick buck, who are trying to extract as much money or value out of the system as possible instead of giving into it, aren't actually capitalists. They're exploiters. They're thieves. They're
Yes.
people who are abusing a system without actually participating in the system or abiding by the principles that underlie it.
No, that's, you know, and you brought up an important element, because when people think of liberty, sometimes it's the ability to choose good or bad. And often when people talk about business, their mind immediately goes to like they're going to choose to do the bad, the exploitative, the extractive. And it seems from what you're saying, it's because they're ignoring one key part of human life, is that we all seek purpose. And once you factor that into the equation, you can start to better understand why and how people pursue business as a way to do good. Could you tell us more about the importance of purpose, both in individual lives and in business?
So purpose underlies everything that we do as human beings. It's not just something that guides us, it's something that gives meaning to our lives. There are a couple of there's a famous quote by Mark Twain that there are two times when someone is born: the date of their birth and the day that they realize what their purpose is here on earth. And anyone who's read Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, has learned about logotherapy and the importance of purpose to be a driver for us to wake up every day, to have a sense of meaning, to have a reason for living in the first place. And what capitalism does is create a framework where everyone is able to pursue their own purpose and a diversity of purposes at the same time, and still somehow get along with each other, to be able to coordinate our efforts with each other, knowing we all want different things, and that's okay, without trying to tell people what they should care about in the world, how they are supposed to live, top down. It allows for bottom-up individual agency to define purposes, and that's what's so exciting about it.
Excellent. I'm going to pause here while we're taking the video so we can do a cut.
Good.
Principled business. I know you're CEO of Liberty Ventures. When I refer to you of Principled Business, how do I refer to you? As the founder of Principled Business? Or
An executive director. Yeah.
Executive Director of Principled Business. Okay, and we'll come back. So we're talking about purpose and the importance of purpose. And you are the Executive Director of Principled Business. Does Principled Business focus on purpose? What are the principles that you find feeding into the purpose that business people seek, pursue, and enact in the world?
So Principled Business is a nonprofit organization that has the purpose of inspiring, educating, and empowering business leaders and the public to understand the power of capitalism as a force for good. And purpose defines all of this, because what we're trying to get at is to help business leaders and current business leaders, future business leaders, and the public to understand how capitalism is based on a set of principles. Those are the principles behind Principled Business. But not every business leader lives out those principles, like a respect for individual agency, like value creation, or on cooperation, which is a fundamental premise of capitalism. We want more business leaders to aspire to live up to those principles. We want to teach those principles to the next generation of business leaders so that they're building businesses that way from the get-go. And we want the public to hear stories of those business leaders who are operating in a principled manner, in creating that value, respecting the individual agency of others, and so on, so that they understand the power of capitalism as a force for good to make people's lives better.
So it might be fair to say that principled business is far more common and prevalent. It's just we haven't been looking for it or looking at business in the right framework to even see what's in front of us.
That's absolutely right. And there are a few reasons for this. One is that there's just a dominant narrative about business that it's inherently evil, greedy, and destructive, which is the opposite of capitalism, which is actually about creating good in the world, about giving away, finding win-win-win opportunities between people, and creating things that didn't exist before. That is a stereotype that admittedly has been propelled by bad actors in the system. There absolutely are business leaders who have misused this economic system, whether by engaging in actual theft or fraud, or by manipulating markets, or by just creating things that aren't actually necessary for people, that aren't actually good, that are destructive. Those business people are out there. But those are the exceptions rather than the rule. Because when we look at a free market economy and we see all of the incredible things that are produced, that people are buying and consuming and using, we see so many people's lives improving as a result of that economic exchange, that so many business people are developing there. We see people leading healthier lives, longer lives. We see them leading happier lives, being able to access more resources and opportunities, new experiences to engage with the world, the higher levels of education. All of this is made possible from economic development, which creates more value, more opportunities, more resources for people to leverage to lead more meaningful, better, longer lives. And that's what most business people are doing. But the other reason that I think we often don't see this is that business leaders aren't out there talking about this enough. A lot of them are really humble. They're just doing their work, or they are so focused on their individual business, they haven't considered the larger system in which they operate. And so they're not out there talking about it. And that's one of the reasons principled business exists, to help get more of those business leaders to understand the system in which they operate, capitalism, and to be out there speaking about it and connecting that theory to their individual experiences and their business and what they're doing to make the world better.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, when we talk about the dominative narrative, like, how many economic transactions have you had in the last week? Could we even count it? No. And you don't remember all of them. But if you bought a piece of fruit that was rotten, you'd remember that, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
So it seems that what's feeding into the dominant narrative is that people are remembering the one bad action and the scores, if not thousands, of good interactions. And one of the things you're trying to make possible is to bring those good interactions to the forefront, so we remember those too. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And you're right. This is a challenge from a human psychological perspective, because it's very common for us as human beings to focus on negatives in our lives rather than positives, not just in economic transactions, with everything.
Mm-hmm.
How often do we dwell on that one silly thing that we said we wish we had said differently, or that one bad experience in the morning with a friend that just sticks with us all day, instead of all the amazing interactions we have with them? And that's part of our psychology in trying to protect ourselves. We think about the bad things to prevent them from happening without focusing on the good, even though so much more good happens. So we need to do more, and we need business leaders to be out at the forefront, talking about all the good things that they're doing, explaining what they're up to. In other words, talking the walk, not just walking the walk.
Right. And you strike me as a man who's walking the walk. You're out there, you're doing business. You're both doing business with Liberty Ventures. You're doing the work with Principled Business. Let me ask you a question, because this might help those who are watching. How did you find your purpose? And how do you see yourself carrying it forward in the world? And that might have already been answered, but yeah, how did you find your purpose in what you're doing today? I'm sorry,
So first off, I'm trying to live out my purpose and trying to be a principled business leader. It's not really an end state, though. It's more of a habit. It's something that we keep working on as individuals, like any other virtue or goals or set of principles that we want to follow. And that's one thing I think a lot of people get wrong. We like to elevate people on pedestals only to knock them down, when so much of what we're talking about here is continuing to strive to do the right thing. So I just want to say that from the outset. I'm trying, like so many others, and I'm not perfect at it, but I'm working at it. Now, that applies to my purpose as well, because I've known for a long time that my purpose in life is to help people lead meaningful lives. And there's a lot to unpack there. But in order to help them lead meaningful lives, I've identified as one of the key things to do is to help people have free lives and understand that they have the freedom to develop their own sense of meaning and live that out themselves. And I've pursued that in a number of ways over my lifetime, but today, what I've identified as the key thing that needs to be done to help people be free and lead meaningful lives, and that I can contribute to, I believe, is to build the movement of capitalists advancing capitalism, of getting business people to stand up for the system in which they operate, to be the best representatives of through their actions, advocates for capitalism through their words, and collaborators through their business dealings in order to create the most free and flourishing system for people to benefit from. And that's the motivation behind Liberty Ventures and Principled Business.
Wow, helping people to flourish. And, it deserves repeating because I've headed up a few business ethics centers, and, people get kind of hung up on, like, we should give awards to certain people for being. And what you said really kind of strikes why I never really did that. And it's because it's not about some state one is in, because that state can change. It's about this habit of continually trying to do what's good and do it well. And so being a principled business person isn't about some goal you achieve and then you get a medal. It's something that you need to do every day, starting when you wake up.
Exactly. It's a habit to develop and to keep working on. It's like exercise and diet. You can't say, I've done all of my exercising for the year or for the rest of my life. No, we have to keep doing it every single day.
And that makes it tough, but also I imagine makes it rewarding as well. Can you tell us a little bit more? Let's say now I'm watching this video and I'm interested in capitalism. I'm doing capitalism. Maybe I'm a professional starting my own business. Maybe I already have my own business. How is Liberty Ventures and Principled Business, how can they connect with that so that they can be a part of this network?
So I'd love to invite people to get involved. And there are different approaches with Liberty Ventures and Principled Business. So on the Principled Business side, we're focused on education. Business leaders who are willing to actually stand up for capitalism and share their story as an example of it. I want to invite them to get involved and become a speaker. So share that with student groups, classrooms, social clubs like Rotary International and others. For if they want to teach these principles to their employees, we have corporate training programs where we'll bring in other business leaders to talk about the principles of capitalism, how it applies to business, and how it actually leads to a better business. And if they want to help introduce these principles to young people or the public, want to invite them to join the network and get involved in programs like a free accelerator for startups, or help expand our speakers program, or developing stories, videos, and other content exposing the power of capitalism as a force for good to the public. But on the Liberty Ventures side, we also know there's a lot that business leaders can do when they do business with others who share their values, who are living out the principles of capitalism. And that's why we created the Liberty Ventures Network, which has over 10,000 business leaders involved now after launching a little over a year ago, who are business leaders who believe in capitalism, are seeking to live out those principles, and are looking to work with each other, whether it's by investing or advising in businesses to scale up, accessing a talent network of values-aligned leaders, or just attending events in order to meet one another and develop relationships that are able to expand in the future.
And this strikes me as something that on a very deep level is living up to some of the purposes you talked about, because it's evolving, it's growing, it's like humans are, right? And so what that means is that people get involved with your network, their voice matters, right? Because they bring to you maybe a viewpoint or a story or something that they've always thought important, and that feeds into the network. So is that accurate? Is that an accurate description that when I come into the network, my voice really matters?
100%. We want to elevate the voices, the stories, the lessons, and the opportunities of every values-aligned business leader who joins the network. And we know that there are powerful network effects that come from that. We've seen so many new businesses developed from people who have met through the network. We've seen business partnerships. We've seen investments. We've seen COOs and CEOs recruited from this. We've seen advisors come in and help scale businesses. And that's what the Liberty Ventures Network exists to do.
It sounds like something that's picking up some real speed. I think that's something that is underexplored, and it's something that we definitely, as the Academy on Capitalism, definitely want to get the word out. So we're going to provide the links to Liberty Ventures and Principled Business in the content in the comments below, that they can then click and follow up on with you. And I suggest that you check this out. This is unprecedented, almost. I would think that we have in education, let's say, we have people who are looking at political leaders, trying to educate them. We have people who are looking at maybe teachers, whether they're K through 12 or higher education, but really stepping into the area of saying, you know what, business people have a voice. We can learn from them. They can learn from each other. In a great and supportive network like this that openly acknowledges the power and value of what they're doing. That's amazing that you're filling that space.
Well, what's amazing to me is that there have been these incredible principled business leaders out there, these values-aligned business leaders who have wanted to work together for a long time, who have wanted to stand up for these principles, but there wasn't a place for them to come together, to join forces, to share ideas, to work with each other and amplify one another's work, until we created this business and this nonprofit. And that's what we're here to facilitate. And we're seeing this momentum pick up because there's a desire for more capitalists to stand up for and advance capitalism.
That is truly impressive. Any final words that you would like to give to somebody who's watching this, who wants to live a principled life, who wants to have a principled business? They're going to contact you, obviously, but they want to just get started. So now that we know about Liberty Ventures and Principled Business, how can people reach out to you and get your attention and start interacting with the network and start their journey on learning how to be active capitalists?
I love that question because I want to connect with anyone who is a capitalist, who wants to advance capitalism and wants to be a part of this network. So best way to reach me is my email at alexander@libertyventures.xyz or alexander@principledbusiness.org. I check my email every day, multiple times, of course, and visit the websites to find out what resources we have available. For entrepreneurs, we have a free accelerator program through Principled Business to help connect them with speakers, mentors, and resources to scale their business. For business owners, we have corporate training programs to help educate employees about these ideas. For investors, we share deal flow with early stage investment opportunities, start from values-aligned founders. And we put on so many events to provide connections for like-valued leaders. Everything is available on our websites, and I'm happy to answer anyone who reaches out to me by email.
Making the world better by adding value.
Exactly.
It's impressive work. I want to thank you, Alexander, for taking your time and talking with us today. Please, we're going to put the email addresses in the comments too. Please reach out, join the network. And also too, if you liked what you saw here, please hit the like button and subscribe, or watch some of our other videos on our channel here. And I'm sure that you'll enjoy those as well. Thank you very much.